Hi, I'm Stephanie Vickers, Design Consultant here today at www.coatescrafts.co.uk. Now you have your inside cover pieces attached to one of your outer cover pieces and your bias binding sewn all the way around. I'm going to show you how to attach the final outer cover piece to this and then turn it the right way around to make your folder cover. With your other outer folder cover, with the interfacing already ironed on, you'll need to place the two pieces right sides facing each other, match up the corners, and then this will need to be pinned in place all of the way around. I'm going to start pinning at the bottom left hand corner here. As you pin, it will seem like the outer cover without the bias binding on is slightly larger than the other cover. This is just due to the layers of fabric there is on the other piece. They will match up once you have them sewn. Once you've pinned all the way around, I'm going to show you how to sew this through the sewing machine. Once you have your piece pinned, it should look like this. You need to make sure you have a pin in each corner, as this will hold it much easier once you start to sew. At the bottom right hand side, I have left two pins vertical to the edge of the fabric. This will tell you where to start and where to stop sewing. You need to leave this gap to enable you to turn the folder cover the right way round once you have finished sewing. I have now sewn around 3 of the 4 edges and I'm coming up to the last corner. When you are sewing now, you need to make sure that you are sewing as close to the piping cord as you can. You will need to use your zipper foot for your machine to do this. Once you reach the corner, again you need to put your needle down into your fabric and then we can turn the fabric in the machine. Now your needle is down in your machine, you can lift your foot up, turn your fabric around, place your foot back down again and keep sewing. You will only be sewing to the pin, not to where you started sewing. This is so that we can use this gap to turn the cover the right way round. Remember to reverse once you reach the pin. Your sewn folder cover should now look like this with a gap in the bottom. Now you have your folder cover sewn all the way round, we need to trim the corners and the edges to ensure that when we turn the folder cover the right way round, we get a nice neat finish along the inside. Too much fabric can create bulk and it will not sit right if there's too much bulk. Using your scissors, you will need to cut on the corner as close as you can to the seam without cutting the stitching line. So you can see here I've got very close to the corner. Once you've cut all of your 4 corners, you will have a piece that looks like this. We now need to trim all 4 edges close to the stitching line. You will need to be careful when trimming the bottom edge. You do not want to trim where you haven't sewn. This is so we have a nice large piece to use for turning to the inside to slip stitch the folder cover closed. I will now show you how to trim the bottom edge here. Starting at the corner, cut into your fabric, leaving a small half a centimetre seam and then cut inwards with a small diagonal line. Your piece should look like this. Repeat the same process for the other side and using the same guideline of half a centimetre, trim the rest of the seams off. I will then show you how to turn the folder cover the right way round and slip stitch the unfinished edge in place. Once you've trimmed down all your edges, your piece should look like this. Remember, you need to leave this little bit at the bottom for when you've turned the fabric the right way round. Now you have all your edges trimmed, you need to turn your fabric. If you put your hand inside the gap we've left and grab one of the corners and pull it through, you should be able to start turning the right way round. Don't worry too much if your seams at the edges give a little bit. Using the same gap at the bottom, just put your hand inside and push out all of the corners. You should now have a piece which looks like this. On the bottom of the outside of your folder cover, you should find the gap which you used to turn the right way round. You now need to sew this gap closed by slip stitching it in place with a sewing needle. Whenever starting off hand sewing, I don't use a knot to start the thread, as this can sometimes show and be visible. I always over sew a couple of stitches to hold the thread in place. This should stop it from coming out and be sufficient. Once you have done 2 or 3 stitches, give your thread a good tug just to make sure it's not going to come out. This is fine. You will need to run your needle through your fabric for roughly 1 centimetre along the edge of the fold line from your outer cover piece. Then catch a little piece of the piping on the other side. It doesn't need to be 1 centimetre this time, just a small amount is fine. Keep running in this manner, taking 1 centimetre from the outer cover and a small amount from the piping until you have closed the gap. Once you have closed the gap with your slip stitching, to finish off the thread, you do it in the same manner as you did when you started. Just do a couple of stitches of over sewing. This will secure it in place. Usually, if I've gone horizontal, I will go vertical through the stitching just to finish it off and make sure my thread is fully caught in. This can now be cut. You now have a finished folder cover. Just to finish off the edges and make them really neat, press them in place and then place your folder cover inside.